It's me, Nim Sony. Welcome back to another video. Today we're back in the Sonic Adventure series fan game that I'm making thing. And no name for that yet. The Sonic 2 in VR kind of thing. And I just sort of made this here test map. And this is what I've been testing the physics in while I've been working on the VR systems. So this video is actually in 3 parts. It's going to be a 2D screeny part. And then of course a VR part. Oh, that spring didn't work properly. Both VR styles that I'm going to show. So the screen part and then the 2 styles of VR. Wow, why is that not working? I don't know. Maybe the homing attack doesn't like it. I don't know. Anyways, so here we have Sonic in standard 2D. So this, you can play the game like this if you want to, of course. And obviously you can see how the camera works and everything. And I've made a few changes to the actual movement systems and the physics itself. You can see that gravity is a little bit stronger now, so you can get a lot more sort of standard platforming feel to it when you're jumping around. Of course, it doesn't feel like a modern sluggish Sonic. It's more, very much more like a sort of Sonic Adventure style, where you do drop a little bit slower, you have a lot more control in air, and Sonic doesn't start moving very slowly. He just sort of rushes off when he starts moving. So same as before, but with a little bit better gravity control and a much better animation for running as well. So he looks a little bit more classic styled now, rather than that horrible style of Sonic 06. It's one of those things that I don't like about modern Sonic games, is actually the animations mostly, where Sonic doesn't have this sort of quick step when he starts running, and that's one of the things that I don't like how I mean a lot of fan games tend to use that style as well, the modern style Sonic, where he starts walking and then very smoothly jogging, and then he's basically running fast but his feet are never really moving fast. It's more like a human athlete than a superpowered hedgehog, which is what he is. And that's why I like the classic style of animation more, where he just very quick steps everything when he's running around. Also, one thing I wanted to mention in this video is something that a lot of people seem to want, but they don't. I don't believe that everyone fully understands what it could do in a 3D Sonic game, which is about momentum. So obviously here I've got a very heavily momentum based system, where for example here, if I just spin off the edge there, I actually get a lot of a jump, but if I run off slowly, whoop, barely anything comes off there. And you can see obviously I slow down when I'm running up the loops, and when I'm running down I speed up quite a lot as well. I've increased how much that affects him as well since the last video. But more importantly, how does momentum work in a 3D Sonic game? Well, it is there. A lot of people think that it's not actually there. It is there. Sonic doesn't work like Sonic without a momentum based system. However, that momentum is much weaker. It has much less effect on Sonic's movement than one of the classic style games. And that's not just the case in a Boost Sonic game. It's actually very much in all Sonic 3D games. They have a lot more ramps and a lot more springs to control what's happening to you whenever you're not running on flat ground or something that essentially acts like flat ground. Like for example, there's here ramps up here, and essentially the whole thing acts as flat ground, even though it looks like I'm not going on flat ground. So that stuff is still there in a 3D Sonic game, but it's much weaker. And you'll see, because of this system here, what happens if you do have too much speed in a 3D Sonic game along with a momentum system that's not weakened like it is in a modern Sonic game. And this is essentially, these springs here are there to act as if I'm boosting. And again, it's not because of the boost itself, it's because of how momentum would work in a 3D Sonic game. So watch this. Whoop. And you can see I'm still actually going up. This is way too overpowered for the level creator. Look how much I can see here. It sort of breaks the immersion, it breaks the game essentially. That kind of boost, along with a simple ramp, would allow me to jump across a large portion of the level, and that's not good. It's way too much for a 3D Sonic game. That's why 3D Sonic games can't fully have momentum unless of course they're built like this, where it feels heavily like a fan game. because it's not guiding you. And that's what I wanted to build here. Obviously, because I'm doing a VR system with it, I wanted to remove all guidance from the game entirely. So there's no loops or anything that are controlled for you. It's entirely 100% controlled by you. And that sort of ends the 2D portion of this video. I'm going to go over to VR in a moment, but not before I mention, of course, this loop, which I built originally because I was going to build this as a Sonic 3 and Knuckles style game. So I was going to recreate a Mushroom Hill Zone kind of thing. But of course, that didn't happen because those levels are just absolutely huge. So instead, I added the little loop that I built for it here. And I also added one more thing, which of course everyone loves, and I decided to keep this in. I'll probably integrate it a little bit more into this little test level. By the way, I'm using this test level as the menu, so you'll be able to run around in the actual menu and, you know, set up your controls and settings and everything within the menu. No animated water here, but we do have a Chao garden. Yay! And it's literally just straight imported from Sonic Adventure 2, with a few sort of changes to the mesh just to make them fit a bit better, and a little bit of edge chamfers in the rocks here. I'll probably remodel this if I add it as a proper thing, a really nice thing. I'll probably add some Chaos in there. There's nothing really special you can do, but at least you could see this and see how it feels in VR, just to see this nice world here. So I'll probably put the entrance there and connect that to the main world. Thus ends this part of the video. So the next part, obviously, in VR, which I'm going to switch to now. And we're back. So welcome back to the game. Here I am in VR, and you'll notice that I have a third-person mode for VR. Now, the way this works is pretty much exactly the same thing as the 2D mode, which is the camera will stay behind Sonic all the time, and obviously turns as you run around, which is probably motion sickness inducing. Now I am going to add a little bit of a change to that a little bit. I'll probably not last very long in this mode right now because there's quite a lot of problems with the VR modes, especially the camera motion, and motion sickness is pretty much guaranteed at the current point because even I'm feeling it after playing this for quite a few minutes. So first thing you'll notice is that the camera doesn't tilt. Yeah, it doesn't tilt with Sonic. So if I run through this spiral here, not using the spring, you'll see that I have absolutely no control of Sonic. Yeah, it's a little bit difficult to control because you have to think of what direction you need to turn in when Sonic runs on the wall. But one problem with this is when you're going vertical up a wall, the camera gets confused. I am going to fix that, but it involves quite a little bit of thought. But right now, as you can see, I can run along the wall and the camera doesn't tilt, which obviously means that I can sort of look up the wall myself if I want to. Otherwise, if I keep my head straight, you'll see that he sort of goes right above the camera, which is fine, except there's a problem. So here's the actual problem with the system. You'll see the camera gets very confused when it's going vertical. That's because it's trying to tilt towards Sonic's up direction in terms of its overall motion system. And then it flattens out after the tilt to build the VR system. So that's a bit of a problem because once you're going vertical, tilting to that could be just anything. It could go in any direction. So you could be tilting this way, you could be tilting this way. Sorry for the confusion there with the screen. But yeah, so that's what causes a bit of a problem for me in terms of that system. So here you can see it really gets a bit of a problem trying to go up the hill and of course going down again, and I got confused. Yeah, there's a lot of confusion on the controls here. I've got a lot of work to do, let's put it that way. But yeah, this is incredible because the scale here is pretty massive. So I have got full sort of VR tracking, so I can position myself relative to Sonic here. I can move left, I can move right, and there you go. Yeah, so you can sort of step forward, say hi to Sonic. Right now I'm standing on the ground, so if I look straight forward, you can see his head is quite a little bit lower because Sonic is 1.2 meters in this. I'm 1.6 in reality, so just sort of measuring according to what we see here. And you can see the camera does move quite a lot because it's doing exactly what it would normally do, except without the tilt. Now, there is of course another mode. This one's gonna be, it's actually for me less motion intense, and that's because it doesn't have all that movement sort of weirdness. Did the camera go a little bit dark there? I think it did. It's just probably the HDR. You can see Sonic's body, but it doesn't actually stay relative to me. So you can see I can completely do a full 360. I've got work to do on the actual character controller, but you'll also notice something else. So I am using my Locomotion System, but my Locomotion System's going through a lot of changes, and calling it Walkomotion now is quite ironic, considering I don't actually have to physically move to move slowly now. So the walking system, you can see here, I'm pushing full in the direction I want to go, which could be any direction. I can just sort of control him completely, but he's only moving very slowly. It's only when I run that I can't get the running system going. So again, it's the same Locomotion System, but it's going through a lot of changes to get this kind of stuff working, and oh my gosh, this feels incredible. Yeah, so there's a bit of problems with the directionality on the springs, meaning I can't use them in full VR mode right now, but I can run along these walls, and through that tunnel, and along everything else. If you're hearing that smacking sound behind me, that's the cable hitting the heater behind me. Right, okay, skip this, and boom. Yeah, so what you're seeing here is pretty much entirely what I'm seeing. And you can see I can look around while I'm running in whatever direction I go. I don't want to touch that spring. Ooh, I jumped off. And of course, we can go on here. So you'll notice that I am able to spin dash, and that's entirely the same as the current system. So I haven't added a VR specific spin dash, which is, oh, I'm looking through his body, and you press it and you got your spin dash. And this is all happening completely like it normally does. So you can just go into a spin dash and you can see in my shadow that I am rolling. And then of course running, and I have to run to keep up as much speed. So basically the Locomotion System now is you still get movement without running. So right now, in fact, I'm going to run down this hill a little bit. So right now I'm just pushing a direction, I'm not actually running. But you can see Sonic slows down. To keep his speed up, you have to physically run. So it's a lot easier than before, since you don't have all that walking locomotion, because walking is really difficult with this system. I've got something to change that to, so I am going to make some modifications to the way that works, so that walking is super duper easy. But right now, for the Sonic system, I'm just going to keep it as is, where basically you've got two modes. You've got running and you've got not running. So pretty much it's two speeds really. In reality, of course, Sonic running at full speed. Let's go over here and get ourselves up there so that I can check out the Chao Garden. Boing. So I can actually launch, like I said, in any direction. Of course, I jump and then push in whatever direction I want to go. And of course, it doesn't have to be whatever direction I'm facing. It can just be wherever I want to go. And that's relative to the hand controllers as well. Of course, I can switch at any point into the other mode, which allows me to rest a little bit. But I swear this mode is actually more motion intense than first person mode. So here we are. You get to see the Chao Garden in VR. And of course, no animations or anything, like I said earlier. I'll probably change this about. I'll probably add the ability to actually pick up your Chao as well. Not that it's going to be a proper Chao Garden or anything like that. This is just for the fun of adding it in VR and just getting to see this stuff in VR. So yeah, you'll notice I'm running a lot less in this system, right? Ooh, running over the wall there. Splash. Yeah, so you'll notice I'm running a lot less. I can just sort of move around wherever I want to go. Nice and easy, nice and slow, unless I run, and I can control the speed by running there. And that's pretty much the whole of this video. So quite a lot to do still with the VR camera systems especially, and of course the animation system with the Sonic sort of not matching the camera movement. You can see here, I can see my body, which is really confusing for some people. You can go under this little tunnel here, but yeah, still a little bit to go on the VR side, but for the most part it looks pretty damn insane good. And that's hopefully the whole of this video. Regarding what I'm doing next after this as well, because this is nearly finished, and once I've got it all done, I do warn you, this is extremely motion intense for like anybody, like even me. I know I say a lot of the time that I hardly ever get motion sickness. Well, this takes the cake. This is like the worst possible thing. This is a guaranteed test of whether you can handle motion sickness or not. This is very intense. It's just very intense. Regarding what I'm doing after this, I'm gonna go back and do some more physics sandbox, but I'm gonna be integrating all of my new systems. I'm gonna put guns in there, just throw in everything that I've done, all the sword physics, all the gun physics, and just release a demo and make sure, I will make sure that this and the next thing have the Vive stuff ready to go from the beginning, because obviously I have a tendency to not go back to something to update Vive into there, because that, you know, it's like changing something and not doing any changes. It does feel a bit boring for me, so I need to make sure that it's in the first place, and that's just a lot easier for me. It's a lot better for everyone else, because you get to actually play it straight up when it releases. So yeah, I'll be working on the physics sandbox, adding all of the cool systems that I've got, all the gun physics, all of the sword physics that I've got, a little bit more climbing. Oop, I'm just shaking the camera to get my headset on right. A little bit of everything there, and I'll probably update the actual world that I had in the last sandbox, the physics sandbox, VR physics sandbox, so everyone gets to do all of that and all the new stuff, and include the Vive modes as well. Thanks very much for watching. Look out for the next video, and yeah, that's that. Goodbye.